Okay, welcome here in our regular class. Today, a little bit at a different hour. Thank you for your patience, and I'm glad to join you in mind, out of time, of course, in that remembrance that it is really in the timelessness where we recognize ourselves and we recognize the truth. And that was also in the last lessons in the workbook, the theme that everything else is really an aspect or an idea of fear. But when we acknowledge that this instant is the only time there is, and we have only here and now, this very instant, this very moment, this present moment, then we can really see that we are guided from out of time. And so in that guidance, time is anyway just a very, very limited perspective about our existence, because in truth we exist only as God created us, as life itself in his mind, as creation itself in the perfection of creation, as love that created us perfect, because love is what God is. And so we come along that idea in lesson 310 that in fearlessness and love we spent today, and that the joy, because this is the joy of Christ that we really share and experience, that comes to us, is not of days nor hours. And here is the expression, even here in the experience of true joy, we lose time, and we cannot really bring it into a reference, in a time reference. And he says further, for it comes from heaven to his son, to your son, Father. It is what we receive from heaven. And so this joy is recognized as a joy that is not in connection with some outside circumstances. It is not caused by an image of this world. It is a joy of knowing ourselves, knowing yourself, knowing myself as God created us. And this knowledge is not of this world. This knowledge comes from heaven itself, from our source, from our home, we could also say. All the world joins with us in our song of thankfulness and joy to him who gave salvation to us and who set us free. All the world joins with you, brother, in your song of gratitude, of thankfulness and joy to him. So this is really the guidance and the remembrance that we keep up in also being grateful to join here in this perspective of accompanying us home, of walking together in salvation, walking together in that acceptance of that one meant for ourselves, in walking together, sharing this singular joy, this Christ joy. And we are coming to a next section in the workbook that for the next 10 days that will answer the question, what is the last judgment? And also, if you listen to how Jesus puts that at the very end, You will absolutely be enchanted and joyful beyond description and imagination, because it's, the Last Judgment was always considered as being condemned to hell and not being good enough. And therefore, the human consciousness has really like strengthened that fear of the Last Judgment that, of course, comes from God Himself. And so it is also put into capitalized letters, the Last Judgment, because He speaks also in that answer to that question of God's final judgment. So once we are entering into the experience of that final judgment, there is no judgment there anymore. There is no concept there anymore. And so the final judgment, of course, has to be a representation, a reflection of our wholeness. And I really love how he puts that you are still my holy son, forever innocent, forever loving, and forever loved, as limitless as your creator. You are as limitless as God Himself is, and completely changeless and forever pure, completely changeless. That what we are is not subject to change. We change our mind, yes, because we do see temporary things. We do see limitations in things, in reflections of our mind, in the world. We do see reflections of light which are put on the timeline, who come in time and again leave and disappear in time. And that is the reason why we change our mind, so that we can come to a recognition of the meaninglessness of these thought forms that were chosen, literally in separation of our creator. And in that recognition that I see only my own meaningless thoughts or my meaningless mind, we are getting ready for the vision of Christ, for seeing with the Holy Spirit, for recognizing what is really there and can really be seen. And he continues then saying, therefore, awaken and return to me. I am your father and you are my son. So this expression is literally the voice of God Himself telling you that you are His beloved son, that you have the same power as He has, as in heaven, so on earth. And of course, you have not really anymore any necessity to stay here or to find yourself here in any limited thought form, in any condition that is coming and going, is temporary. But your decision to wake up, to awaken and return to Him, is really why you first of all came here into that sequence that you call time space or the world you see. But only a mind that can accept those offerings, I wanted to say, those characteristics as He was just giving it to us, will also be willing to return this very moment, today, and no longer linger around a place of meaningless reflections. And what we accept is our complete innocence, our being loved and being loving, our limitlessness, our complete changelessness, our purity, and I will add on the impossibility to be guilty, the impossibility to be sinful, and therefore becomes also fear impossible. And another thing that becomes impossible is really to judge according that thought system of the mind that we call the ego, and to judge in reference to the past. So that judgment of the human being always expressing something that he has experienced in the past and puts it in a reference of being valuable or not valuable, of being painful or of being kind of, like whatever feeling better is considered and prescribed. But these oppositions of qualities of an objective reality becomes impossible. Judgment becomes impossible. And so we will hear in the lesson 311 that I judge all things as I would have them be. And you already can tell how he puts it in the lesson that judgment was made to be a weapon used against the truth. And this is what human mind first needs to see, because it has developed and become really, I call it a judging machine, right? Like an automatic response to everything in the categorization, in seeing it what it is and if it is right or wrong. And so it has been made a weapon to keep in that limitation, in the littleness of one's self identity or concept of the self, and therefore not needing to go completely and dissolve into the truth. And he says further, it separates what it is being used against and sets it off as if it were a thing apart. It separates, judgment separates what it is being used against and sets it off as if it were a thing apart. And now you understand why all those things were kept alive with their meanings, with their little meanings. And this is a chair, and this is a table, and this is you, and this is my grandmother, and so on and so forth, in order to keep it apart, in order to can tell it apart. And so by telling it apart, it would also be clear that it would literally be impossible to come together, because then we would be these bodies, these personalities, these separate entities and individuals. And then it continues, it makes of it what you would have it be. You decide. It judges what it cannot understand because it cannot see totality, and therefore judges falsely. So you actually here came in and joined with me, and that is already evidence that you do know yourself, and you do see totality. You utilize that capacity of your whole mind, of your vision of Christ, in order to recognize and see and acknowledge totality. And therefore, you become aware that you cannot judge. Any judgment, as you are just hearing it, is a false judgment that is put in reference to anything of the past. Let us not use it today. That is really the affirmation that we will carry with us. And we will not just carry it on the 311th day in the application of the lesson, I judge all things as I would have them be. But we will carry it around till the end of time, as long as we find ourselves in the dream. Let us not use judgment today, but make a gift of it to him who has a different use for it. How beautifully poetically expressed. We are literally giving judgment to the Holy Spirit, to Christ himself. We give it as a gift to him who has a different use for it. We are just giving also allowance that he can give it back to us in that way that is so close to heaven that we literally can jump into heaven, or there will not be any obstacle anymore between our experience of ourselves and that what is the will and desired to be home, he will relieve us of the agony of all the judgments we have made against ourselves. We made judgments really, actually only against ourselves, because even when we seemingly judged each other, we have judged ourselves. It came back to you, right? And therefore, you are here in the activity of that mind training and are willing to learn about it in a new way and re-establish peace of mind by giving us God's judgment of his Son. To re-establish peace of mind. You are here because you want the peace of God and you want the peace of mind and nothing else. And so you are here also very consciously to, in your open-mindedness, to receive God's judgment of his Son, who is you. And I was just telling it to you using those words from the introduction, what is the last judgment? That you are innocent, forever loving and loved, as limitless as your Creator, completely changeless and forever pure. And in the prayer, we turning our minds to God and say, Father, we wait with open mind today and every day to hear your judgment of the Son you love. We do not know him and we cannot judge. Here is it. So we do not really know the Son of God unless we really know, and then there is no perception anymore needed, and in a completely letting go the remembrance of, okay, this world I see isn't actually here at all. There is no such thing as a world. We cannot judge. And so we let your love, Father, decide what he whom you created as your Son must be. Beautifully expressed. And well, this is just one example of this new sequence which we are entering with what is the last judgment. And from there it goes also into the next reasonable idea on the 312th day. I see all things as I would have them be. And now let the new perception come to me, and so on, right? So those lessons will teach us that projection makes perception, and it is the thought first, and that is what we perceive. And as we had it in previous lessons, it is really what we choose, what we decide upon. It is not something accidentally. We are perceiving absolutely that what we want to see. It is what we desire in our mind to see. And so perception follows judgment, because judgment is really on the level of the thought. Projection is on the level of the thought. Thought is first and then follows perception. So perception follows judgment. Having judged, we therefore see what we would look upon. You will see, therefore, what you would look upon, what you choose to see. And if you're not happy what you choose to see, then I invite you to be active in that mind training of A Course in Miracles. And as we were already starting it, and in that reference to that book, 3 Days to Awakening, I will just very quickly continue to share with you some parts. And we were reviewing the last time, actually, of sharing and recognizing that to see a word is the same than to hear, to touch, to think, what sensory perception is. But what you see, you believe to be real. And that what you see is actually not just reduced to what your eyes see, but what you see with your mind, what you think in your mind. And that is what you believe to be real. But now, in your willingness to have a completely new perspective, a new understanding, a new realization, and becoming willing to change your mind about it, to turn to a source that is a reference from out of time, which means a true source. And that means we are turning to Christ mind. We are turning to the mind of Jesus Christ. We are turning to whole mind, to the frequency of light, light mind, which is the Holy Spirit. And there we are in that offer coming from out of time called A Course in Miracles, because this is a message, or is the help given us all from out of time, from his mind. And this is A Course in Miracles. This right now, what we are sharing now in the 45th episode of 3 Days to Awakening, right? And it is A Course in Miracles, and it is part of this Course in Miracles. And I love it when he says, and it is a required course. I love it when he expresses that it is only the time that we choose that is really our choice. We cannot change the curriculum. The curriculum is set. What is the curriculum? The curriculum is our awakening, is the complete change of mind, a complete reversal of perception. Yeah, and we were using the words from the introduction of the workbook, the second part of this Course in Miracles. Since an untrained mind can accomplish nothing, it is the purpose of this help, of this workbook, to train your mind in a systematic way to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. And that's where we left it. Now, if we're looking a little bit in structures of these lessons, that we will see that the first lessons offer you the experience of the fundamentals of the teaching by explaining to you that what you perceive objectively, right, what you see out there as an object, and think conceptually, right? And you have an idea about it. And of course, that is now you can connect it, is expressed as a judgment or as telling yourself, this is this way. It is also, if you're telling yourself, this is this way or this is that, you're actually judging it. And so to think that conceptually is truly not anything and is not really here now. It has nothing to do with reality. It doesn't represent reality. What you think conceptually, what you think in a perspective and in a reference with the past. So here in this section of this book, which is the last section of the first volume, which we have day one, described as day one, looking for a way out of here. There's a dedication given of coming here, day one, coming here as is in a short description of how you see truth in the denial of your true self, of who you truly are, and how you can see, truly see, right? How you can truly see as an awakened mind with the vision of Christ and walking with God. And this occurs by using Jesus' mind and words from the workbook lessons. And now we were already mentioning it in like these lessons, I am as God created me. This will be lessons given several times and the expression of what we are giving in truth. And so those are kind of key lessons in the mind training, which is prescribed for 1 year, 365 lessons, right? But in particular, we are talking here about the first 50 lessons, and if we include the review of the first 50 lessons, which follows for 10 days, we are talking about the first 60 lessons, and we might immediately include also lesson 94, 109. 109 is I rest in God. 110 again is I am as God created me. 126, I give what I receive. Giving is really my experience. 159 and 162 is again I'm as God created me. So those lessons 51 to 60, which I just mentioned, these review lessons of the first 50 lessons, which is kind of how it is given in its short way of description, also a very essential part of the learning process, of the practicing process, and serve within the course, within the workbook, to review these first almost 2 months of change of mind, and are particularly used as part of this course instructional section. And as you read through the portions of the lessons that are presented in this book, you may note that the order of the lesson numbers, if I've used them, is not necessarily sequential. So I put it together more in actions of mind. So this is simply to serve the manner of exemplification or grouping lessons with similar ideas in a way that may be helpful in such a summarized presentation as this. Well, okay, but what is really tried to be expressed is the undoing process, right? The undoing of illusory perception. And that undoing will lead automatically to self-recognition, to recognize yourself of, let's say, being the light of the world. Say to me, I am the light of the world. Yes, you are, we are, I am the light of the world. And that can be used as a practical introduction for doing the workbook lessons on a daily basis. So here in this book, it gives kind of this nice perspective where you can already see which terminology and how he puts it and how he interconnects it, and might motivate you then to really start that workbook on a daily basis and go from day 1 to day 365 in that remembrance that every day is a complete undoing and a complete transformational process. So in that, of course, those daily lessons represent then a new beginning, and we can call it of an intense mind training. And the lessons will facilitate you in remembering your complete process of transformation, a single moment of experience with God. And undergoing a complete mind training will bring about the inevitable personal experience of your awakening, including the recognition that there is no world, as I was just mentioning it before. I'm not a body. I am free. I am still as God created me. There is no death. And as it is stated in the introduction of the workbook, that these ideas are here to be used and will automatically change your mind to a different perception of everyone and everything you see, as we were saying it. Yeah. So it also says some of the ideas that the workbook presents you will find hard to believe, and others may seem to be quite startling. So if you notice that when you go through that, or even if you listen to these classes, here is the answer of Christ's mind, of Jesus himself, telling you this does not matter. You're not asked, and it is here again exactly what we are practicing with these lessons. You are not asked to judge them at all. So again, let us remember to let go of judgment, to relinquish judgment. You are asked only to use them. You are only asked to use those ideas, to apply them. It is their use that will give them meaning to you and will show you that they are true. Now, here in the book, I'm starting with this synopsis of lessons 1 and 4. Nothing I see means anything. That is the title of lesson number 1. I see nothing, and nothing has no meaning. I've given everything I see in this world, this particular place, all the meaning that it has for me. That is the title of lesson number 2. In other words, I've judged everything I look upon, and my judgments have hurt me, and this is not vision. What I see is the projection of my own errors of thought. I do not understand anything I see. This is the title of lesson 3. Why is it so? Because it is not understandable. Wonderful. Next one. I'm trying to think without God, and that is why these thoughts do not mean anything. This is the title of lesson 4. These thoughts do not mean anything. These are not my real thoughts. So these first 4 lessons, very simple, very short, but they are cornerstones. If you're really looking at the ideas, nothing I see means anything. I've given what I see all the meaning that it has for me. I do not understand anything I see, and these thoughts do not mean anything. They are cornerstones of, I would see it and explain it as a pyramid of the remaining 361 lessons, or altogether 365 lessons, that are built upon them and will always point back to them. All lessons will, you can always find a connection to one of those 4 lessons or to all of those 4 lessons. And if you really would understand these 4 corners, you would be gone from this world immediately. You would be literally at the peak of the pyramid immediately. And to recognize that you see only your own thoughts is already the realization that there is nobody and nothing else out there but yourself. And what you see are merely reflections of your own mind. We repeat that over and over again. What I see is only a reflection of my mind. And because you falsely believe in a sequential time continuum, none of your thoughts are ever real in this very instant, now, but always over and gone. All of your thoughts is only seeing the past, and the past is always gone, is always over and gone. So you see what is not there, and holding on to nothing, holding on to nothing upsets you, right? If you hold on, you see what isn't there, it's not there. But if you're holding on and you want to grasp it and you want, no, it must be there, it must exist, then of course it will upset you. Now, from there, I'm entering into the synopsis of lessons 5 to 34, and I will just keep here going with some lessons that are at the beginning of this mind training part of the Course in Miracles. And here's the idea of lesson number 6. I'm upset because I see something that isn't there. And I am never upset for the reason I think. That's lesson 5. Why is that so? Because I'm constantly trying to justify my thoughts, to make them true, right? This is justification of thoughts, to make them true, but they are not true. I make all things my enemies so that my anger, fear, worry, depression, anxiety, hatred, and jealousy is justified and my attacks are warranted. Those are now the words out of these review lessons, mostly out of the review lessons and also including the lesson itself, as we were mentioning it above. I have replaced reality with illusions I made up and have given them reality and thus regard reality as an illusion. I hold the past against everyone and everything, making them my enemies. I see only the past. That is the idea of lesson 7. Why is that so? Because my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. And that is lesson number 8. It is the rationale for all the preceding ones, the first 6 ideas. I look on the past to prevent the present from dawning on my mind. It is the cause of the misconception about time. By learning to give the past away, and this is what we learn, I'm giving up nothing. So remember, the whole universe is but a past thought. It is really just a past thought. This world you see was over and gone a long time ago. This is what you can really bring into a, coming from that self-realization, this is revelatory, okay? And then lesson number 9, also very essential. I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. And the choice is not whether to see the past or present. The choice is merely whether to see or not. And it is difficult for the untrained mind to believe that what it seems to picture is not there. This idea can be quite disturbing and may meet with active resistance in any number of forms. But it confirms that, and that is the next idea of lesson, that my thoughts do not mean anything. Lesson 10. I have no private thoughts. They do not exist, and so they mean nothing. But now I'm going to jump from lesson 10, from the first 10 lessons, to lesson 24. But they determine the world I see. And lesson 24 teaches what I do is determined by my perception of the situation, and that perception is wrong. What I do is determined by my perception of the situation, and this is what we were mentioning before. Thought, projection is first, and then comes perception, and the perception is wrong. So it is inevitable then that I will not serve my own best interest by being willing to follow the guide God has given me, and recognizing that I cannot perceive them, my own best interest, that I do not perceive my own interest by myself. I could be taught what they are. But in the presence of my conviction that I do know what they are, I cannot learn. Therefore, I have to admit that I do not perceive my own best interests. That's the title of lesson 24. I do not perceive my own best interests. Yet everything is for my own best interests, and that is what it is for. That is its purpose. And another expression of this is, I do not know what anything is for. That's the title then of the following lesson 25. I do not know what anything is for. And therefore, anything is meaningless to me. I attempt to use everyone and everything for personal interest, right? That's what we call it, to prove that my illusions about myself are real. It is for this that I believe the world is for, and therefore I do not recognize its real purpose. The purpose I have given the world has led to a frightening picture of it. The world, the pictures. Now you can ask yourself, what does the world picture? The world that pictures your meaningless thoughts can have no meaning. The world that pictures my meaningless thoughts can have no meaning. And here we arrive at lesson number 11, going back, right? We just made an excursion to 24, 25, going back to 11. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. What is producing this world is insane, and so is what it produces. So from there, we will look then more closely to how the human conceptual mind processes thoughts. But this we will continue in the next episode. We don't want to overload it, because this is just giving a taste of what this mind training offers. And we are using, especially here, these review lessons of the first 50 lessons in order to get a good look and perspective already on which foundations and fundaments this mind training is based on, and how important those fundamental lessons are in coming then to a completely new way, new perspective of ourselves, everyone, and everything. Because otherwise, the vision of Christ would just be another concept. No, the vision of Christ is a real experience. You're seeing with your higher mind, with your whole mind, with your perfect mind, with the Holy Spirit, is really not just possible, but necessary. And this is what is facilitated by becoming active in that change of mind, so that you can arrive at the recognition, oh my God, it's true, what we just shared before. Who I truly am is completely changeless. That is the final judgment that comes from God Himself. I'm not subject to change at all. What is me, what is real, must be eternally creative, must represent creation itself. So, how could creation change? Creation is not creation of something that is making things. Creation is light. Creation is of God. Creation is thought itself, capitalized thought, right? It's whole thought. It's perfection of thinking of what you are as mind, as spirit, as God created you. So, with that, I just say thank you and see you in an instant. And I think next Saturday we are at the normal daytime to do this continuation until the end of the year with this series of 3 days to awakening. And yeah, I see you in that light. I see you who you are. I recognize myself, seeing you in my mind as my own whole mind. And we thank both and all of us, because we have one mind, and we thank God for recognizing creation itself as an experience, a singular experience of who we are. Thank you. Have a most wonderful evening. And yeah, whenever you join here in day, night, whatever day. Bye bye. Thank you.